So this this technique kind of was born out of this need to make small hand-built cylinders as sort of spouts on flasks and things. And I didn't like the way that slabs rolled up and then had a seam, and they were always kind of thick and weird. And I saw this technique, I don't remember where, but it kind of struck me as, well, that's the solution I need. And so it sort of started by just doing this. And I went out and got myself a nice selection of dowel sizes. You got a little bottle or like a container of dowels from Hobby Lobby, is that right? They have square ones too. Those are nice. So with the small ones, you know, the first stick sort of is about just the scale of everything, right? You know, for this piece, I wouldn't start with such a small stick.
Could you start with a piece that big?
Yeah, I'm gonna use this piece next. So the idea is that you try to get it through in the middle of your little coil. What'd I do?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. You didn't do anything.
Good. So sort of the trick to getting it through there in the center of everything is to keep rotating that coil as you work it through. Keep turning it, and then the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it doesn't matter too much if it's not perfect. So if you're making beaded jewelry, you know, you'd be done. But that's not working. That's not what I'm doing. So the idea then is to hold the stick at a given height above the table, and I'm using my fingers as a sort of guide for that, right? So that hole now has gotten quite a bit larger, so then we can go from that small dowel to a larger dowel.
So what you gonna do with it?
Just making seamless cylinders. You missed the first part where I said that this started off by wanting to make little spouts for like flasks and things, you know, where I didn't like the way a slab worked, and to sit at the wheel to make a little thing for a hand-built piece didn't make any sense, you know.
Yeah.
So here now, I don't really want to make it much bigger, but we can now go to a texture.
Yeah, I've seen people make stamps like that, you know.
Right. And so here now you could use the dowel to make your cut. Actually, a fettling knife would work better. That's what my support board is for. Right, so you know, manipulating a slab that's that thin to get a seam, push it together is rather tough, right? But you can roll these out pretty quick and easily, and you can see how that could quite nicely become, you know, the top to a bottle or a flask or something like that, you know, or anything that you might need a small part for, right? Let to become leather hard and cut in half, it can become something else, right? Yep, I've made teapot spouts that way too, where you can kind of roll it at an angle and get it to do different things. Now, on a larger scale, I would start with maybe something like this, or maybe even something like that size, and then go for the middle. And here I think you see the technique a little easier. Longer. To the next size that'll fit. Somebody at Notre Dame was playing on the lathe and made a large cylinder and left it behind, so I nabbed that right away. It's not quite big enough for that yet, though.
I think I've got some of Teresa's water bottles on there.
This is fine. Good. I mean, so that's essentially, I mean, that's a pretty fast and easy way to get a pretty decent cylinder, right? And then outside of that, it just becomes about, well, you know, what is it for you? And really hung up on T-bowls, and so, of course, it's got to become something like that.
It looks like a coffee cup. Bangle bracelets. Oh. Except it's too bad we can't fall out. Is that good?
Yeah. Just a little bit of water to make it stick. The more I do this, the more I realize that trying to make it perfect makes it worse. And so it's been hard for me to learn how to embrace just letting it be what it is, because I so much love to be a dictator.
No.
No, there's a point at which you can do some, then you've got to wait for leather hard, and it's hard to know where to stop.
Are
And
those
then-
functional or just aesthetic?
What?
Are those functional?
Those little marks?
Yeah.
Nah, it's just a way to keep that bottom from being too flat. And I'll come back and mess with it in the end, because at leather hard I am going to come back and put a little foot on the bottom here. Right, but if I try to attach it now, it's just not going to work. But I mean, that's just sort of one dumb example of what you can do with them. But the more I do this stuff, the more I realize that it's about this experience, right? This moment of time, you know. It's I read an article once about poetry being the sort of stoppages of time, right? You know, it's this stop where, you know, you've got these events that lead to this poem, and then that's like this stoppage of time, and then time starts again, right? And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but somehow I've started thinking about clay as just this stoppage of time, you know. It's this moment where things were frozen, and you know, right now that's what it's about for me. That's how I'm feeling. Right, and so I mean, the more you can embrace your relationship with the material, the better off I think it becomes for you. I tried to. This thing?
I mean, just, you know, if it's about a stoppage and where you are at the moment.
Yeah.
You visit it.
Right.
Minutes later. You
Right.
glaze it and it's like.
Right. And that's.
It's a weird disconnect.
Yeah, and it is, and I think, you know, that's where, you know, for me, that's where those atmospheric firings come into play, right? Where you can just sort of take it and put it in a kiln and let the soda do its thing, or let the wood do its thing, and hopefully some of those atmospheric firings can start to become a thing here too, you know, right? Where it'd be nice if we all had access to that stuff, you know, because the glazing your piece and reduction firing it is fun, but you know, there's really not much that you're involved with, and it is sort of like putting a bad shirt on this stoppage of time, this moment, right? And now you're going to cover it up with something that is maybe going to look good, but usually just looks like a bad shirt.
I think that's why a lot of us get stuck at the
Yeah.
glaze point.
Yeah, that's why I hate the glaze point. And it works for, you know, like wheel thrown things that are real tight and precise. You know, the glazes look great on them. But for stuff like this, I agree, it gets kind of weird. You know, a Shino sloppily put on, I think can look good. But without that atmosphere to add to it, I'm not sure is really awesome. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I'd like to push for around here, is to, you know, get some more options going. flow fire's nice too, but it's just more of the same
Yeah.
in a way. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I've got for you tonight. It's a quick one.
Is this our next week?
Make up for last week's hour and a half long demo with Billy and the Glazer. Giving you back some time.
No, next
Next week is the last regular class period, and I'm hoping to do an extra class, but my wife is trying to get us to go to